I always get worried that I don't have enough coffee. That's the only anxiety. It's not about the football talk. It's just the coffee quantity concerns.
Never have too much coffee.
I mean, I think you technically definitely can. Scientifically, they definitely think that it affects your blood pressure and your heart. But regardless, we are here. We are live. What's up? It's week 6. I'm Matt Savoca. It's the Stochastic Fantasy Football Channel, and I'm here with my buddy Nick Lepri, and we got to start breaking things down. We had a huge injury in the running back position with Rashad Penny, your boy, unfortunately going down for the year. But before we get into this, let's just start things off with a question. James Joseph in here grinding 20-something minutes until the show starts, and he says Brady will eat this week. Tampa Bay playing Pittsburgh, 7.5-point favorites on the road. He should have had 3 TDs Sunday instead of 1 because both receivers fell down at the 1-yard line. Look at what Allen did to the Steelers. Buying or selling Brady, not just against the Steelers, whose defense doesn't look good, but rest of season.
I would be buying Tom Brady. I mean, I've kind of talked about for the last couple of weeks that I really think that things are just going to start slow and then eventually everything's going to catch on. And it appears that we're at the point where everything is caught on. And going forward, he could really be a top 5 quarterback. Now, obviously, he doesn't have this crazy rushing upside, but we even saw it last year. You don't need crazy rushing upside if you're going to throw a million touchdowns.
I think so too. And maybe that's because I was heavy in best ball season on him and also have him in quite a few season-long leagues I care about, trying to take the bias out of it. In pass rate over expectation, which puts game situation back into the equation in terms of deciding whether a team should pass or run, the Buccaneers are right there with the Chiefs and the Bills in terms of that rate. So I think they're going to pass a ton. I'm with you, James. I'd love to see it. Let's get one of those 4 or 5 touchdown games like we saw every couple of weeks, those spike weeks that we saw last year with that offense. Good morning, everyone. And Nick, I put you right on the spot to start. How are you, my friend? And guys, you know the man. He's the legend at Notorious FNTSY on Twitter. Nick Lepri, how are you today, man?
I'm doing pretty solid this morning. I hope everyone in chat is doing well. Obviously, Sunday did not go the best for me because my team lost. Shed a bunch of tears on Sunday, but it is what it is. The Mets also lost, so it was like a double get fisted type of scenario. It really hurt my feelings, but it is what it is. The Mets probably won't be back, but the Dolphins will be back on Sunday. So that's okay.
Oh, we got something to look forward to. And I live in New York, and seeing the subways just decked out in Mets gear. When it's going to be like that for like the next month or two. Kind of funny. Kind of the way the Mets go most of the time.
I've seen it.
Anyway, be sure to like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell too so that you know when we're going live. And Shell Bell, good morning, Matt and Nick. No questions today. Just letting you know I enjoy your shows so much. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shell Bell. Appreciate you. Appreciate all of you guys. We're going to dig right into this. I think we got to go faster into tier 1 so we can get to tier 2 where people really have questions about the quarterback positions. Let's just dive right into it. And as we do, I will continue to pull up questions. I see some familiar faces in the chat this morning. Miso, what's going on, man? James, happy to answer your question to start things off. Let's go. And Ron the Go. What's up, man? Good morning, gents. Good morning back to you, Ron. Happy to see you this fine Tuesday. Oh, you were frozen there for a minute. We got you.
I'm here. Don't worry.
And if you want to throw tier 1 on, I'm ready to roll.
I'm pulling it up.
Firing. I have Everett and Schultz both letting me down. I started Everett last week. An opposing team had Taysom Hill. Okay, let's give you a scenario. In our stochastic fantasy league, right now you are number 1 at a 5-0 record. Sorry, got my dog barking. I'm number 2 with a 4-1 record, and I'm leading in points. Kenneth Walker is taken. And should I take Taysom Hill as my number 1 waiver priority? Because I have it right now.
Honestly, I probably would. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but he literally is the number 3 tight end right now in half PPR. I don't see things like when Jameis returns, maybe that's when things change. But right now, like, do you think Dalton's going to play this week? Like, I probably do. So I would probably just roll out Taysom Hill until the wheels fall off. So I agree with that. I would take him as my number 1 priority. I have him in every league except for the one that we're in.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to contextualize. Like, you've been on top of this for weeks with Taysom Hill, but in that league, you don't necessarily have to go aggressive. I think I'm gonna go for it. Just giving you a little spoiler alert. Yeah. So as we get into tier 1, we probably have a lot of players that you guys expect to be there: Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts. Any of these in tier 1 that you're really liking this week?
Yeah, I am pulling up the graphics just so you guys know. It's my fucking computer because I have it saved on what is that called? Like the portable drive thing, and then it always takes that like a good 2 minutes to pull up so I can open up the folder. But the guy that I like the most in this tier just has to be Patrick Mahomes. I have to keep talking up Patrick Mahomes because it seems like everyone in the offseason started to hate Patrick Mahomes. I don't know if you noticed that in the comment section. There's a lot of negativity towards Mr. Mahomes, and now Mr. Mahomes is clearly looking like the best quarterback in the NFL. So people need to keep giving him that respect. I know if you watch the games, people are going to go ahead and just basically suck him off live on TV, but he is amazing.
All right. Yeah, and then
yours are up.
All right, here we go. Lamar Jackson, yeah, we start him. Josh Allen, I saw it perfectly stated in a tweet. I'm sorry I'm not going to be able to remember who to quote, but Allen's Buffalo Bills and Patrick Mahomes' Kansas City Chiefs are the only offenses in the NFL that just want to score points. Nothing about the situation, nothing about their space on the field changes that overall goal. Everyone else is trying to do, in my opinion, too much. Now, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens look great. Jalen Hurts and the Eagles looked okay against the Arizona. They looked susceptible, I would say, against the Arizona Cardinals. And what is happening with your computer right now?
I don't know. It's doing the fucking Harlem Shake, but it's back up now. I don't understand what's happening. It just keeps opening and closing.
This is a little spooky, a little October-y. Okay.
Yeah. I'm not going to touch anything. Here, wait. You know what? If we go like this, it'll stay on the screen. So there we go. Sorry about that. I don't know what's happening. Is it good now?
Yeah, we got it. Yeah, this tier is kind of a no-brainer. You're starting every single one. Now, at this point, I guess I'll ask you a hypothetical. If you lucked into 2 of them, let's say you kind of spent the draft capital, what are you expecting in return for one of these top-tier players?
Yeah, I've actually seen a decent amount of people that have like Lamar and Jalen Hurts on their team, and I'm looking for basically the premier return, whatever you could get as best as possible, because I'm not just trading these guys for some wide receiver too or an RB2. I want like a top 12-ish player at their position. That's kind of just how I view things. Now, do you agree with me, or are you kind of in a different situation?
I don't know if you're going to get it is the only problem, right? Like, who is someone going to do Jalen Hurts for Derrick Henry? Is someone going to do Jalen
Maybe not.
Hurts for Justin Jefferson? I don't think that's an unfair trade.
It's not. But I don't know if they will. But I'm saying more like, would like say AJ Brown for Jalen Hurts if you have two of them, right? That's something I could see getting done, right?
I think I still want Hurts. I think I still want Hurts. They're running the ball
Probably.
so much. He's on pace for the most quarterback runs ever. AJ Brown's a phenomenal player, but he's kind of at the mercy of Hurts' rushing ability. I kind of want Hurts.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would too. But then again, then you're just going to be sitting there all season rotating the guys in and out. And then what if you start the wrong? Say if you have Lamar and Hurts, what if you start the wrong guy every week? That's got to be the most annoying part about it, having those two studs.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Just I will say not a ton of people are in this situation, so I realize I'm isolating a small group of you, but I think we can move on to tier 2 because all of these players have honestly great spots, and we're not benching them in really any game situation.
Of course.
Kyler Murray looked like there was a glimmer of hope in certain drives. A beautiful touchdown to Hollywood Brown. As I said earlier, Tom Brady continues to pass and pass more than we expect. And then we got to talk about Geno Smith there at number 9. Dude is like at a goated status right now. 3 straight games with 22 plus fantasy points, 2 straight games with 30 plus fantasy points. Talk to me about Geno, and then anybody else you want to highlight.
Yeah, so I want to just ask you real quick. Did you expect Geno Smith to look not even just this good, just remotely good, right? Like I didn't even see a scenario where Geno was, say, quarterback 18 at the end of the season. I really thought that Geno was just going to struggle. Like he has the receivers, but it just seemed like a scenario where I just didn't think he was very good. And
this is unprecedented, right? Where you go from just consistent backup status for like 6 or 7 years to then a starter and an effective one. You would think it would show up in practice, but it just shows that sometimes it's all about the playing time and then proving yourself during that playing time. He's been efficient. What else do you want to say? Number 5 in QBR, number 7 in expected points added, number 4 in true passer rating on playerprofiler.com. And when he gets that clean pocket, number 1 in clean pocket completion percentage. Hasn't even needed to run all that much. He's 13th among quarterbacks in carries per game and still balling out. You love to see it. Joe Burrow will have easier matchups, but not necessarily this week. He's facing the Saints on the road in New Orleans. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, we did just see Mr. Geno himself slice and dice through the Saints defense, so you never really know. I mean, real quick, that ball he threw to Tyler Lockett literally looked like it was Russell Wilson throwing in the ball.
It was.
I don't know if you saw that.
Awesome.
It was beautiful. It legitimately is what Russell Wilson used to do, to throw to Lockett. Like it went right into his hands. It was beautiful. Again, I don't want to just sit here and talk about Geno Smith for 3 hours, but at the end of the day, the guy has completely shocked me. And I think even if you picked him up like in week 3, you're shocked that he's this good. Like you just have to be. There's no way anyone saw this coming. And then when it comes to Joe Burrow, I do kind of worry about the matchup, but the Saints defense looked like on paper to start the season, they were going to be really good, but they haven't been the best. They've definitely underperformed in my opinion.
I agree. I agree. That game total right now in Vegas sits at 43.5 in that Cincinnati New Orleans game. Kind of the same situation where there are some middling concerns, but not that you're going to bench him most likely for Justin Herbert. Playing Denver at home. Denver's defense is stout, to say the least. Made Matt Ryan look silly all night, despite the win. That was the ugliest football game I've seen in a long time. But Justin Herbert is one of those players that you could argue, just talent alone, he should just be in tier 1.
Yeah, and then another thing with Herbert is I thought he was going to look like banged up for a couple of weeks. He doesn't even look like he's hurt anymore. Like, I don't know what those doctors do. Like, that's the same doctor that stabbed up Tyrod Taylor. So whatever that doctor's doing now seems to be the perfect remedy.
He woke up. He realized what he had to do. Let's get to some questions here. We can pull up tier 3 as well, because then after the top 10, it gets much dicier. And remember, we put quarterbacks into tiers, and we use expert consensus rankings on Tuesday because we want to show you what the wisdom of the crowd is thinking about these quarterbacks as you get into the week, as you try to make streaming quarterback options, and then same with the tight end positions. It helps you with waiver wire decisions, and then we'll get into our stochastic specific rankings from Wednesday on. Juan asks a couple minutes ago, good morning. Should I trade Sutton and Pierce for Andrews and Curtis Samuel? I'm doing this trade.
Yeah, I'm going to have to do that as well. I mean, look, man, that's tough. I really do like Pierce and Sutton. They're like two of my favorite players. It really depends, Juan. Do you need Andrews? That's kind of my question. Like, do you really, like, are you rolling out, for instance, fucking Dalton Schultz or Robert Tonyan every week? Then yeah, I'd do the trade. But if you're not, honestly, I think I'd want to hold Sutton and Dameon Pierce. Those are two of my guys, so kind of hard to move off of them for me.
Yeah, if it's Dameon Pierce, it means a little bit different. I did assume it was Alec Pierce when I first saw it, but if it is Dameon Pierce, it's a fair trade. Man, it's just about the allure of having an Andrews or a Kelsey who, my God, he wasn't even like getting tackled on these touchdowns last night. Kelsey's unbelievable. Andrews has been unreal too. So that clarity at a position where nobody else has it is very alluring to me. But Dameon Pierce literally putting the team on his back, some incredible runs himself. Hat tip to you, man. You've been talking up Dameon Pierce for months. As we hit quarterback tier 3, Kirk Cousins up and down. Aaron Rodgers mostly down this year. Trevor Lawrence down for the last 3 weeks. It just hasn't looked good. And then, I mean, Mr. Unlimited has not looked very dangerous at all. Is there any hope for Russell Wilson to keep pace with Justin Herbert in this Monday night game against the Chargers?
I don't think so.
The same way, Nick.
We talked about this. There's like this video of Kodak Black, like on the internet, where he goes, "I hope so." That's basically what I'm thinking. I hope that he's able to keep up. I honestly just, I don't know what is wrong with the NFL. Like, I also had no idea this game was Monday night until yesterday, and I just tweeted, "How have they done this to us? Like how do we get another Denver game?" I hope that this just like magically now everything's clicked, because I do think when things click for Denver, they can be a great team. I'm just not sure that it will ever click at this point.
And he had some sort of procedure, but wasn't surgery, and he's definitely playing. That doesn't sound...
Yeah, it does not sound great at all.
At least we get Dallas and Philadelphia in the Sunday night game, sandwiched between just absolute trash. Washington and Chicago on Thursday night, and Denver. Well, no, Denver, Los Angeles at least has a chance. We have some chance at shootout potential. How about this tier 2 of tier 3? Remember, they're all grouped together. Just because it's 14 through 17 doesn't mean they're any significantly different than Cousins or Rodgers. Wentz is throwing a lot through 38 times on Sunday. Stafford is throwing poorly, one of the least efficient quarterbacks in the NFL. And then Garoppolo and Wilson are limited by the state of their offense. They're so effective right now running the ball. You heard me. The Jets are so effective running the ball.
Of course. They literally ran a train on the Miami Dolphins. And then Michael Carter, that scumbag, hits the waddle in the end zone. Fuck that guy. Okay, that was rude. That hurt my soul. But yeah, dude, that offense is humming right now. That running attack is very effective. I'm interested to see how that will work against the Packers. I think it'll work quite well, though, because we just saw what Saquon Barkley did to them in England. But again, I kind of talked about this a lot last week. Those England games, to me, I don't really take too much from them because they seem very fluky. Now, I don't think the Giants are the, one because of a fluke. I'm just saying a lot of things that happen feel fluky when the game's in London. I don't know. Maybe that's just an off take from me, but that's just kind of how I feel.
I think that's a fair generalization. I'd love to do it. We've talked about this. I want to get to a data study at some point about London games and them consistently going under or being weird, like you're saying. I do think coaching often helps push teams over the edge when parity is very high. So when the teams are very, very evenly matched,
Yeah,
coaching can be a big differential. And
coaching's good.
yeah, it's changing a lot of things. And regardless of the circumstances and how things turn out, the Giants at 4-1 and Saquon Barkley running all over people. Thank goodness he's okay after that scare with the shoulder injury. We'll get to running backs tomorrow. We'll be back 10 a.m. Eastern. I want to get to a few more questions here. Mike A asked a few minutes ago. He's got Disley and Pitts. I honestly think should I even consider Taysom this week is his question. I honestly think Taysom is a flex starter. Like, you just don't even worry about the fact that it says TE next to his name, and you just play him next to Pitts, unless you have a clear flex player like like a mid-round pick who's still performing very well, like a CEH or something like that.
Yeah, I was shaking my head. I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I would just put Taysom Hill in the tight end spot and just never worry about it again. Just don't worry about it. Understand he might score 3 points, but you also have Pitts who might score 3 fucking points, and this guy is like the most athletic tight end to ever play the game. So I would just unless what Savoca is saying is true, right? Say you don't have a flex that's very sexy, very like a guy you want to play, then you could just play Pitts and Taysom Hill. But at this point, I don't really trust Kyle Pitts, and I don't even think that's a hot take, to be honest with you. And I think that the consensus, because I'm looking at the tight end rankings on my screen right now, is far too low on Taysom Hill, and I would have him ranked significantly higher than they do.
I completely agree. And I wonder if we go to the consensus ranks about 12, 15 hours from now, as more people start rolling in their week 6 rankings, we see that move in. I'm very excited to see where Stochastic has them ranked. Now, I do want to talk about Jimmy Garoppolo. The man doesn't throw very often, but he's actually throwing pretty well. Like, they didn't have to use him a lot in the second half. They were just stomping on Carolina.
Yeah.
But did you know he's number 1 in Player Profiler's red zone accuracy rating? So once they get there, he's really good. He's once again just dominating. This is Kyle Shanahan at its best in yak per target, number 4 in the NFL. So in an ADOT perspective, air yards per attempt, he's going to look bad. But in a yards per attempt perspective, he's going to look incredible. Garoppolo is 6th in the NFL in yards per attempt once again. Can we trust him in fantasy? Right now, he is 26th among quarterbacks in fantasy points per game.
Yeah, I don't really trust him. But
against Atlanta, though,
of course,
without
you can
Deion
play him
Jones?
against Atlanta.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can play him, but I mean, what's Jimmy's ceiling, right? Like what's the best performance you can get out of him? Like quarterback 11, 10? Like, I don't see Jimmy ever taking your team and putting him on your back, Greg Jennings style, you know?
I'm trying to see. He was quarterback 8, quarterback 3 in week 8 against Chicago last year, quarterback 8 in
quarterback 9 last week.
Yeah.
So I guess like quarterback 8 would be his ceiling. So, okay, that's fine. But again, I just don't really see him. I mean, I guess the situation we're in here is like you pick Jimmy up and you play him, right?
I think so. I mean, Atlanta defensively looks better than last year, but still below average. That's just the bottom line here. Tampa Bay, as we were talking about early on in the show, looked like they could have scored a whole lot more in the touchdown category than they did. I'd rather play Garoppolo than Wilson right now.
Agreed.
I might rather play Garoppolo than Matthew Stafford. I'm probably an idiot there. They're 10-point favorites. But again, the total is incredibly low. 41.5-point total. That means Vegas isn't expecting either team to show up, and they're playing against PJ Walker. They might just keep the ball on the ground, keep it real simple and conservative. Anything else you want to add? We'll kick it over to tier 4 and then get to the tight ends.
Yeah, we do that. I just want to talk real quick about Stafford. He's literally only been inside the top 20 once this year. Quarterback 29, 10, 27, 29, 23. And as someone who drafted a lot of Matthew Stafford in best ball, this has been just an all-time bad experience. I mean, if there's ever a bounce-back game, it's against Carolina, but I don't know, man. It's difficult because, like, Kupp can still dominate and Stafford could be absolute dog shit.
Yep.
Stafford was, like, he throws an interception every game, basically, except for week 3. I don't know. It's weird, honestly. It's weird to describe just how bad Stafford has been compared to how good he looked last year.
And here's something interesting. So we know the Carolina Panthers fire their head coach, Matt Rule. They also dismissed their defensive coordinator. They were actually league average in many of the metrics I looked at, and arguably have some playmakers and could look to trend towards above average in schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed to opposing offenses. That just takes the defensive metrics and compares it to the offenses, how they've performed in the past. They were just 17th in the NFL against opposing offenses overall. Against quarterbacks, 17th exactly against quarterbacks and overall offenses. I mean, that's exactly league average. That's not bad. I don't know. I didn't think the defense was the problem. I thought the offense and the usage of their star players was clearly the issue. Brissett and Fields, that's clearly in the you can't actually trust them category, but if they have a good enough matchup, they can sometimes perform well. Brissett against the Patriots, not expecting that this week. Fields, who are they playing? I just got to remember.
The Washington Commanders.
That's right, on Thursday. Honestly, in a 38.5 point total, look elsewhere. Daniel Jones, I'd rather have that. I might even stick with Matt Ryan in the league where he's just like farting around for 7 points as a super flex option for me. Gosh, I hate that league.
Justin Fields was quarterback 13 last week. I guess the only hope is that he starts running the ball a million more times. It's bad.
It's like bad. Yeah.
It's very bad. And the Commanders' defense isn't even that great, and yet I'm still scared to start him. Again, I think they're going to keep ramping him up. It seems like they're trying to throw the ball a little bit more, but they haven't like fully committed, right? They're kind of just kind of tiptoeing around the idea, like, oh, what would happen if we throw the ball with Justin Fields more? And the problem is, too, like, they're keeping him cold. So, like, when he does throw late in the game, it's like he's not warmed up at all. He's, like, handed the ball to David Montgomery 50 fucking times, and he throws a pick. And then everyone's like, whoa, what happened? It's like, this isn't Justin Fields' fault. Like, he's literally ice cold. He's like Jack Frost in the pocket. It's unbelievable. Like, what is he supposed to do?
I see it the same way, man. It's just, I guess he has to just make magic happen, and that's just not fair. That's just not fair.
No, and it's not even a fair way to judge the guy because his ass might be grass next year, and it's not even his fault. He didn't even get a chance.
Well, someone might get a gem in Justin Fields, a second chance option. Bridgewater sounds like he was essentially able to return in the previous concussion protocol, not able to return. It means it's probably highly likely he's available for next week. You're still bitter about it. We got to go to tier 5 because we got to get to tight ends here. But anything else that you want to hit on? Oh, gosh. Let's just jump in here because Kenny Pickett is a player I actually am higher on rest of season. Cooper Rush, all he does is win no matter what. And Bailey Zappi, I mean, he didn't have to do much. The defense is great, but he kind of looks promising too. And then we got PJ Walker, who just rushes a whole lot. He's real fast. If you need a what-the-heck super flex starter, I don't actually think he's the worst. Point out some things you like about tier 5, if any.
Yeah, I do like Pickett rest of the season. I just don't like this matchup that they have this week. I don't really see Pickett having all that big of a game up against the Bucs. He didn't look great last week, but it is promising that he looks like he wants to do something like Mitch Trubisky. Now, again, I don't think Mitch Trubisky is like the worst quarterback ever, but he is just like, I don't know. He just does nothing for me. Like he goes out there, throws the ball to the right of the field only, can't throw the ball to the middle of the field, and he's just out there playing football. Whereas Pickett, like you see that dog in him, he's like yelling at the guys on the Bills defense. At least it's fun. I mean, they got absolutely torched last week. They're probably going to get destroyed by the Bucs. But in a more favorable matchup coming up soon, I'll just click on his schedule. Like, look, the Dolphins, their defense does look the best. It's severely beat up. Like week 7, that's primetime game. Like Kenny Pickett could have a good game there. So I do think that there is possibility for him to bounce back. And then Mariota looked good last week. Mariota is just the definition of like the most average guy. You just throw him out every week. You don't expect anything huge, but he's my super flex QB2 besides Tom Brady. So I just roll him out every week. He's going to be somewhere from quarterback like 10 to 20, and you're just okay with it. It is what it is. This week he gets the Niners. Obviously not the most ideal matchup, but last year against the Bucs, last week against the Bucs, he was QB10. So
PJ Walker, I realize, is playing against the Los Angeles Rams, which means I don't know if you've heard of this number 99 on the Rams. Pretty good. There might be some pressure up the middle, which actually might lead to Walker scrambling even more than we've seen him do in the past. If you're looking for a quarterback that is absolutely free, that you could probably pick up after the initial run of waivers, that you might actually be able to start and get, I don't know, 9 to 12 points out of, it's PJ Walker. This is going to blow up in my face, isn't it?
No, I mean, Walker also, note, I mean, we're not talking about receivers. He is better for DJ Moore if you look at the splits.
Well, that's promising. That's horrifyingly sad, but it's also promising considering PJ Walker is starting. Andy Dalton, the red rifle, seeding passing touchdowns to Taysom Hill, seeding rushing touchdowns to Taysom Hill. I actually saw another question about Taysom. We'll get to it in a moment, but I think this pretty much rounds out the quarterback position. Let's get to the tight ends because we got about 10, 15 minutes before we got to close things up. And I'll tell you guys about a tournament I want you guys to check out. You see the banner at the top of the screen, and you probably heard me talk about it before, but the Underdog Resurrection Tournament, the Best Ball Resurrection Tournament, starts this Thursday and goes through week 17. So if your fantasy teams aren't looking like they have a chance at first place, maybe they'll grind their way into the playoffs. We're still here to help you out. Or if you've been playing in summer best ball leagues on other platforms, now is truly the best time to get into the action over there. That $10 entry to that tournament can net you up to $100K. And when you click the link in the video description below to go to Underdog or use promo code Stochastic, you see the banner at the top of the screen, you can get up to a $100 first match deposit bonus. You just draft a team over there, you win huge prizes. Draft, win, draft, win, draft, win. That's pretty much how it goes. And when you use the promo code Stochastic, they'll match that first deposit up to $100. Hope to see you guys at the top of the leaderboards at that Resurrection Tournament.
Yeah, you're right.
Go for it.
The tournament's only 47.9% filled, and it locks on Thursday. So there is a chance for overlay. I'm not saying there will be overlay, but there's a chance at least, right? Only 48% filled, and it locks on Thursday. So
that I'm going to fire more tickets. That's how that works. See you guys there. Travis Kelce scored some touchdowns. Mark Andrews scored on Sunday, but Travis Kelce scored more. The dude is just a freak of nature. How is he that open? Is what I continually ask myself. But it's almost like we got to move on because Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, you feel #blessed if you got him on your roster.
Yeah, and also real quick, it's just hilarious that Kelce can score more fantasy points than yards, right? Like he literally had more fantasy points than yards on the fucking field. It's just, I don't know. That felt like that was the least amount of yards anyone has ever had with 4 touchdowns.
That stat is nuts, but it is the definition of why I try to look at next layer metrics, and you've heard me mention expected fantasy points, because he's getting all those goal line targets, because he's getting targets with yak potential inside the 10. Expected fantasy points, it'll pick up on that, and his XFP will not be that different than his fantasy points. He'll still have scored many more fantasy points over expectation because he converted all those things into touchdowns, but it won't be egregiously high compared to his yardage-based expectations. Just 25 yards on, I believe, 7 receptions. Dallas Goedert, man, he's going to have his weeks playing a Dallas defense that's really tough, but after last week's performance, you got to say I believe in this guy. And he was the protege of Zach Ertz, who was pretty solid on the other side of the field against Arizona, and now has a pretty decent matchup against Seattle, the worst defense by some metrics in the league.
Yeah, I know we're talking about, obviously, week 6, but next year it feels like both Kelce and Andrews might be first-round picks, and I don't even hate it at this point. Like the tight end position is very top-heavy. This feels the most top-heavy it's ever been. It feels like any of those guys you drafted late just aren't hitting. Like normally there's that, oh my God, draft him in the 12th round, and now he's the tight end 3. Like besides, I guess, Taysom Hill, there really hasn't been that.
Essentially, this time next year, Travis Kelce will be 34 years old. That is the only qualm I have. Mark Andrews, I think you'll find him at the end of the first. Tyler Higbee, it's up and down like it is for every other tight end, but he's got 11 target potential. He's got to be in tier 2. He's playing Carolina. Nothing scares us tremendously about that defense, excuse me. the ceiling's pretty high, even though that offense is kind of sputtering out right now.
Yeah, it'd be nice if he scores. He's pulling a Jacoby Myers. He hasn't scored
Well, that
yet.
team isn't scoring.
Yeah, I mean, he gets like 10 targets a game. So you would just think realistically he'd be scoring. But, yeah, you're right. That the offense needs to stop giving the ball to Cam Akers because it hashtag does not work when you give him the ball. It does not work.
They're a mess. I saw another great tweet that I'm not going to be able to remember who it was, but they were showing the efficiency metrics of Stafford, and they were saying, what would the narrative be had they not actually made that Super Bowl run? Because he's truly, in some of the efficiency metrics I'm looking at, truly one of the worst 10 quarterbacks in the NFL right now. It looks bad. Maybe they hit that tipping point in terms of offensive line play where he just simply does not have time to make decisions in the way he wants to. Higbee, therefore, a dump down target. Dump down. I don't know. I don't know if I love that phrasing. I'm going to move on. Is getting a lot of targets. Let's move on to tier 3 here where it gets tougher. Let's see if we have any questions as we dig in here. Nick says, just traded Mixon, Ertz, and Garrett Wilson, and you got Saquon. Think it was a decent trade? Hey, you gave up a lot, but there are 2 running backs who are differentiating themselves in just entirely different ways this year. It's Saquon and it's Nick Chubb. Those are the 2 I want. I mean, McCaffrey, Taylor, Swift. There are players you could say by the end of the year they're running back 1, but Saquon looks unbelievable. I'd love to have him.
Yeah, I mean, this trade for me, like Garrett Wilson's kind of out of the equation now. Like it seems like Zach Wilson just doesn't really want to give him what we thought he would. So it's really just Mixon and Ertz for Saquon. Like I personally would not have done that, but I do get why you would do it, and I don't think this is like a lopsided trade. Like, look, Saquon is significantly better than Mixon in a points per game perspective, and Saquon might be the RB1. So the difference between the RB10 or 12, where Mixon might finish, and the RB1 is huge. So
Exactly.
I get why you would do it, and I like Saquon Barkley a ton. I'm just saying that it depends on who your other tight end is as well, because getting rid of Ertz and then maybe if you have to play like, I don't know, Tyler Conklin every week, then obviously that does kind of sway my opinion.
And he has Chubb. So now he's rolling out Chubb, Saquon
Higbee as well. Yeah, he's fine.
Yeah, that's a squad, Nick. That's a squad. Nice job, man. What percentage of fab or fob, as some say, do I use on Taysom Hill? Waller's on the bye this week. 1 league in Freiermuth. Yeah, expect Freiermuth to spend some time out because he's had 3 concussions in the last 15 months or so. This is about 25 to 30% of my remaining fab on Taysom Hill for most players.
That sounds not like enough.
Yeah, you think? Well, okay.
Sound like enough.
Let's compartmentalize. Let's say what percentage of your budget are you using in a league that has Kenneth Walker on the waiver wire, and then what percentage of it are you using it if he's not on the waiver wire? Because that's a big choice people are making this week.
Oh yeah, I would spend more on Walker.
Me too.
If Walker, now again, I'm not saying that Walker is going to outscore Taysom Hill, but what I think is like the running back position. Like if you get a guy like Walker and he really is the guy, like they're not trying to use the other guys behind him. I think what percent would you use on Walker? Is 40% too high? Like that seems not too high for me.
Oh, in the waiver wire video on this same channel, the Stochastic Fantasy Football channel, I start things off saying 80%.
80%.
You get full 80% of your remaining budget, right? So if you have like 67, 80% of 67, because it is so rare that you get a player who's going to be an every week starter for a team, and he's a high draft pick, and he has decent metrics, and he had a breakout play already. Like this is a situation you got to just go for in the middle of the season, absolutely. But then after that, so to me it would be, let's say it's 80% of your budget on Walker. I'm probably using 15% of whatever I've got left on Taysom Hill. And if Walker isn't in the equation, like he's already on a roster, I'm probably using 50 to 60% on Taysom Hill. I think he's an every week starter.
Yeah, I agree with that. You got to unload the clip to get Hill because I've been a super flex league where I have Taysom Hill as my starting tight end. Like, how is that even allowed?
So
Three
you essentially
quarterbacks.
have like 3 quarterbacks.
Yeah. Should
Or
not be
I mean,
legal.
Taysom Hill, like closest matching usage is a running back. In fact,
That's true.
there are some sites and platforms that have him listed as a running back. And by the way, just because you see him at 13 or excuse me 15 on the screen does not mean he's any different than George Kittle, David Njoku. These projections are grouped together for a reason, right? Because the ceiling, floor are similar enough that we can put them in groups. But let's be honest, guys. How many tight ends have 40-point ceiling potential other than Kelsey and Andrews? Hill is in a special group because of his unique usage.
Yeah, I agree. And besides Taysom Hill, like you mentioned George Kittle, I know we don't have the most amount of time here. When do we panic on George Kittle, right? When do we get so far into the season that it's like, wow, what have we done? I did not like George Kittle in the offseason at all. But I have him on some best ball rosters. So like, when do you panic? Obviously, you can't just cut him. I can't cut him, or I would never cut him in redraft. But when do we start to panic? Because it's been 3 weeks in a row, not inside the top 12, not even inside the top 20.
So, in terms of share of team total opportunities, that's rushing and passing attempts, because we have to do that now because of Taysom Hill. George Kittle is a top 10 tight end.
Yeah.
But that translates to 9.8% of his team's opportunity. There is such a big difference between the Andrews, 18.2%, Higbee, 16.4%, and Kelsey, 14.7%, and everybody else. Surprisingly, Zach Ertz, Pat Freiermuth, and TJ Hawkinson are next on that list. But the bottom line is George Kittle is a player I'm trying to find this. I'm gathering up stats to try to trade him away. He's being used as a blocker way too much. His usage on that offense, rush heavy offense, is just too few and too variant for me to trust him rest of season.
Okay. Here, real quick, did you see this morning? I know this doesn't have anything to do with quarterbacks or tight ends, but you still had the Devontae Adams shove. I'm sure most people saw that.
Yeah.
They're saying that he's facing NFL discipline and potentially even a suspension. The league is reviewing the situation.
I did see that.
I
My
just saw it in there.
initial hunch is that it's a large fine, but they might do it to prove a point that you can't do that, because I think that guy was authorized like a sound guy or something. He was authorized to be there, and I saw that he also publicly apologized. Again, these are moments where I'm thrilled to be talking about fantasy football and not disciplinary action, simply reacting to the news. Anything else you want to mention here in tier 2? We didn't really mention anyone in this middle column: Conklin, Hurst, Ingram, Schultz. Schultz is the one that I'm most concerned about, especially because he's injured. Hurst, I had him as a must-start player in my start-sit video this week. I hope you guys listened, because he was heavily involved on an offense that still has Chase and Higgins.
Yeah, I decided to play fucking Conklin over Taysom Hill in one of my leagues and lost by 1 point to the Mark Andrews owner. So that was just the best, right? But yeah, I think Tyler Conklin's going to be fine. I really like Hayden Hurst. I talked about Hayden Hurst. I've been talking about him for weeks. Even if T. Higgins returns next week, like, that's a situation that's just mind-boggling what's happening with T. Higgins. But Hayden Hurst, even when Higgins is healthy, is just a viable option on that team. But besides him, I don't know what to do with Dalton Schultz, and I'm just going to continue to sit him. That's just kind of my read on it. I'm just going to continue to bench him, and maybe eventually he'll be a starter on my team.
I'd rather play Everett. I'd rather play Njoku. I'd certainly rather play Hill. I even think, let's see the matchup. I think I'd rather play Tanyan as well.
Yeah, I think I'd rather play Will Dissly. I don't even think that's crazy.
My. What do you think about Michael Gallup? He's been kind of quiet over the last couple weeks, but with Schultz out, I think you could see Gallup come on here, and Noah Brown too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not playing Gallup because I just don't love Cooper Rush, but I do think that the second Dak returns, like, I saw something. You think Dak's going to come back this week? I don't think he'll be back this week, but it's on the precipice of coming back. But I don't know why they didn't put him on IR, if I'm being honest with you. That still doesn't make sense.
They wanted him to practice. I think Cooper Rush starts Sunday night against Philly.
Agreed.
I think they make it really difficult for us to find out who's really starting to mess with Philly. But I think he comes back for real the next week. Who are they playing? Detroit. Yeah, that's who they want to start him. At home against Detroit instead of on the road Sunday night at Philly.
That makes sense.
Okay. We could jump to tier 4 here as we get to the tight end position. Donnie Bravo asks, you got 32 left of your budget to get Walker. Fire the clip. I don't think you're going to get him.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, like I would throw all 32 in. I don't think you're going to get him.
I completely agree. I don't think you're going to get him either. But I would definitely pay that price to get him, right?
Right. If you got him for
I
32,
hope so.
you should be extremely, extremely happy. Hill or Ertz, full PPR.
I would go Ertz. I think I'd actually go Hill. Let me be honest with you.
Taysom Hill or Zach Ertz is a real question in fantasy football. Am I crazy to say Taysom Hill against the Bengals?
That's how I feel. That's how I feel. I'm going Hill.
Absolutely wild. I think the tiers would say otherwise, and so we're going on our guts a little bit, but that's the fun of fantasy football. We can use all the metrics we want, but eventually we are the ones that have to start our own players. Here it is, all 5 tiers of the tight end position. Thanks for throwing that up on the screen. The tier 3, the great flattening of the projections, is what you see from number 6 to number 15. Any final words for the people as they get into their waiver wires in a very, very important week 6 as we round the corner to the second half of the fantasy season, Nick?
Yeah, wish you guys all good luck. I mean, these first couple weeks of the season have been crazy. It feels like nothing has been super predictable. There's only a couple of guys that are predictable at this point. It's been very interesting.
Can you answer this question real quick, too? Sorry,
Yeah.
I know I ruined your flow, but this is a good
It's
question
okay.
because
Are you
Waller
guys
has a
worried
bye.
Yeah, you worried about Waller? Yeah, there's a couple teams on bye this week, which makes things even more difficult. But yeah, I'm worried about Waller. I think when he returns, he's going to be good. But I can't say that I'm fully confident in Waller. Like, I'm just worried. And Kyle Pitts isn't on this list. That's clearly a mistake.
That's my mistake. He should be in there at 6.
Okay. Yeah, that's
after Higbee, next to Kittle.
Yeah, I don't trust Pitts either. But yeah, I am worried about Waller. How do you feel about him?
Waller is going to be just fine, except for if you wanted 12 target games. No one's getting 12 target games. Even Adams, who looks like a beast, isn't actually getting a ton of volume. No one's getting a ton of volume. They're just spreading it out in Las Vegas. Doesn't mean they can't succeed offensively, but it's Adams and then everyone else. This has been a whole lot of fun, guys. I'm sorry. We will get to these awesome running back questions that I'm tempted to answer right now, but we got to run right now. Thanks so much for hanging out. Follow him, Nick Lepri, at Notorious FNTSY. If you so choose, always like a follow as well. My name's Matt Savoca, and you can follow me at Draftaholic. We'll be back talking running backs, a very important running back week. When is it not an important running back week? Follow us. Use that code Stochastic at Underdog Fantasy. Get into the Resurrection Tournament. Take advantage of the overlay and take advantage of all the great stuff we've got over at the Stochastic Fantasy channel and Notorious Fantasy. For Nick Lepri, my name is Matt Savoca. We'll see you guys tomorrow.